This is the Transcend in Life podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson, taking you from fear to freedom.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. Jen Lill Brown is my guest today. She is awesome. She's an author and ghostwriter who has written for some of the most prominent speakers, trainers, and leaders in their fields. From celebrity health coaches to NFL MVPs, Jen has written over 40 books and programs. She is also co-author of Knuckle Dragging Sales, as well as 2 academic textbooks with her father, Dr. David Lill. At the University of Alabama, Jen worked for the Southwestern Company, running her own door-to-door book business in the summers. After college, she co-founded the Tom Black Center for Selling. Jen also co-founded Knuckle Dragging Sales, a sales coaching and corporate training program for sales professionals. Today, she lives in Nashville with her husband and 3 amazing boys. Jen, what's up? Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, JM. Thank you for having me. I'm just living my best life here in Nashville.
You are living your best life. You always are living your best life. You obviously are very special to me. Jen is the ghostwriter, and I'm using air quotes right now because I love what we did. I love the voice that you brought to the book, and I think it's so cool. Can you tell people how you got into doing that? Because your writing is beautiful, and I am so pleased with how the book came out and the whole process that we did.
Yeah, how I got into it is an accident, which is, I think, the story of how most of us got into the things that we really love to do. Isn't that funny how that works? I was an investment finance major in college, and but always loved to write, just kind of did it on the side. A family crisis kind of thrust me into writing. In 2001, my father had a brain tumor. It was benign, but needed to be removed, caused some significant, as you can imagine, some significant issues with his speech and just ability to be able to write. And he was a published author at the time of a textbook. He brought me on to help do the new edition. I did a great job. I wrote in his voice, found it very easy to do. When that book was published, that garnered the attention of a couple other salespeople who wanted to write sales books and said, "Can you write in my voice?" And it literally just evolved from there. I wrote a book for a couple of salespeople, and so it kind of solidified my position in the sales world and then business and leadership. And then also because of my love of natural medicine, I ended up writing a book for a natural health practitioner. And so I just formed these 2 branches of these 2 niches. So I write in the business world and I write in the natural medicine world, just completely by accident. And that's about as complicated as it gets.
So you're a finance major in college. You do
Yeah.
selling at college. Obviously, nothing really speaks to writing at that point, right? But
No.
you are amazing at it. So did you love writing as a child? Was that something that you just loved to do?
I did. So this is kind of a funny story, actually. I'm embarrassed. I'll say it, whatever. So when I was in my early 20s, I was like a chain smoker, legitimately smoked so many cigarettes. And I used to go, which is ironic because of the health aspect, I know, but we can talk about that later. I used to go to coffee shops and just smoke and smoke and smoke and write in journals. I just did it. I mean, it would just pour out of me. And it was this sort of creative time. There was nothing I enjoyed more. Now, today, obviously, I'm not a smoker, haven't been for many years, but it was just it was the time in my life when I filled up journals, like stacks of journals, poetry, free form thought, wrote stories, wrote children's stories. I just kind of developed my own writing, my own voice that way. Very, very, very bizarre, I guess. Never took any sort of English or writing classes other than what was required, in college for everybody. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I've always loved to write, and it's always been a passion.
Well, I think the first question is, when are we publishing some of these journals? Because I bet you Jen's mind as a teenager, that's got to be pretty interesting. I'm just saying that would be pretty awesome.
No, I think every single one of those journals reads a lot like a Nine Inch Nails Tool album. Like the words Tool, Nine Inch Nails, those were like oh my gosh, it's embarrassing to admit this. Like this is recorded in the annals of history now, annals of history, whatever. But yeah, it was emo kind of, a lot of emotion, but I also it's how I got to know myself. as silly as that sounds. And so that's, yeah, they would be very, looking back on them now, my husband and I have been ugly cry laughing sometimes reading these journals. Like we can make a whole night of it with a bottle of wine. They're entertaining.
I can't wait to be invited to the next one because I'm happy to share wine and cry and laughter as well, because I certainly have my own journals. I'm curious
Oh.
because I know you and I, when we went through our process, I was constantly like, hey, are you reading this? And you're like, I read so much. Do you personally journal still? I mean, as much as you write during the day, is that something still a practice of yours?
The only thing I journal now is in the morning when I have my prayer and scripture time. I journal stuff, thoughts directly to the Lord, and that's it. And I don't even give enough time to that I really want. I wish that I did, but as you know, being a working parent and having active boys, you and I know all about your routine in the morning because I wrote about it in the book. And I've tried to emulate that some, actually, getting up in the morning. I have given myself small little windows of time in the morning and trying to grow on that, just like you recommended, where you just start with like 10 pages a day or whatever. So I give myself 10 to 15 minutes in the morning to write. I confess I don't do it every morning, but I'm getting back into writing things for me again, because I have now for 15 years been writing for other people, and I haven't written anything for myself in quite a long time, actually. That's a whole nother issue.
Well, as you say, everybody's got a book inside of them, and that's something that
True.
I'd love for you to talk about, because I think the whole idea of writing a book, or it was certainly my idea of what it was going to look like, was so different than how the process ended up being. Now, you made my life tremendously easier. You continue to do so. But what would you suggest for somebody that's out there that's going, gosh, I want to write a book, but I just don't know how? What do you have some thoughts to that?
I do. First of all, there's two very distinct types of people who want to write books that we have to differentiate. First, there's people who want to write a book strictly because they want to get their words on paper for their family, have a legacy. They don't care if they sell a single copy. So there's those people. And then there's the people who have a passion and have a message inside of them, but they actually want to, let's use the word, monetize it. So I feel like these are two very different categories. And so I can really only speak to category B, which is how I would describe you. And not that it's all about monetizing it for you, but you have your message, you have your platform, and it's a business now that you have. You want to transform lives, but at the same time, it's also something that you're doing as a career, right? So so for people who are in that category, the first thing that I always tell them to do is figure out who your audience is. So if let's just say you're a mom who has been cooking organically for a couple of years, and you feel like you've really got some transformational messages to be able to help busy moms help their kids eat healthier, let's say, for example. So your audience would be moms like you or whatever. But I think step one, figure out who your audience is, because that's going to determine your tone. That's going to determine the informal or formalness of the message. It's going to determine a lot of the links. There's a lot of things. So step one is going to be your audience.
Well, so you pick your audience, and now it's like, okay, I have all these great ideas, and now what? Because that's what I got stuck in. It was like I had, similar to your teenage years, I had journals and stuff everywhere, but a semblance of a plan and putting that together, I mean, that's fairly overwhelming for folks.
I agree. I think that everybody has one really organized friend that if they don't want to pay a ghostwriter like me, who sucks all the goodness out of you and gets it on paper like you and I did, and we had those great back and forth, I think I've had a couple of friends who have been able to sit down and have, quote, interviews with other friends who help them pull their content out. So, for example, remember, you and I, we just had a conversation every Wednesday, or was it Friday? Was it every Wednesday? When did you and I talk?
Typically Wednesdays, but there were weeks it was both. Yeah.
All right. So you and I just talked. Now, of course, I always had a method to my madness whenever I asked you questions, but you gave me that very, very general outline, which is just one word, right, for every chapter. So backing up a little bit, if you want to before you bring a friend in, if you want to sit down with yourself for a half a day and say, okay, if I was going to tell a mom how to eat, how to help their kids have a healthier lifestyle, what would be my key talking points? Don't write them all. Don't write details down. I'm just talking about step 1, healthy meals on the go. Chapter 2, how to incorporate movement into every day of your life. Step 3, what it means to have quiet time at night. Step 4, reducing electronic time. Whatever it is, whatever your things are that you're super passionate about, write those things down, and those are going to become your chapters. After that, once you have your topics, if you sit down with a friend who knows you really well, and you start talking it out like you and I are even doing right now, and you record everything and you get those puppies transcribed, bam, you've got the rough content for your book right there.
Yeah, and I just have to speak to that because you guys, the interview style that she's talking about. So I would say, again, vulnerability, and then she would just say, okay, what does it mean? And then question. And we record all this. And then I got to give props to rev.com. Boom. They record it all. And here's your paper. But it made the process so much easier. And what I would say is I hated my writing. I will tell you the way it came across, the sound. And that's where Jen made it beautiful. I have had everyone tell me, you know what, I love the way it read. And I'm like, don't give me that. That's 100% Jen. So what's one of the most misconceived things about your profession today? Is there things that you're like, man, I wish people knew this about what I do?
Yeah. A lot of people think that I have some sort of formula that I follow. And I really, and a lot of people, I've had quite a few people who have approached me wanting to do what I do. How do you do what you do? And I guess the rub that I have is that I don't know how to describe it other than if you want to be a ghostwriter, you have to just really have a good way of reading people. You have to be able to read between the lines and understand a person's, I don't know, you have to step back from a situation. You have to just really understand somebody's train of thought, which also means that you can't write something that you don't agree with. I've actually turned down projects that just the person or the subject matter did not align with me, because first and foremost, even if whether it's your book or the book that you write for someone else, you have to be passionate about it, or it's going to read like pure crap. I mean, truly. So I guess I don't know if that answered your question or not, but it's really important though.
Well, I think that applies to anything, right? If you're not aligned with it, walk away. That was quite literally my second company, 6 years of hell. I hated it. And it was quite literally because of the values. We weren't aligned. Yeah. They weren't bad people. We just weren't aligned. So one of my favorite things about talking to you, because of what you do, you have experienced so much. It's like you have this kind of like, I don't know if it's a PhD, but certainly like, you've been educated in so many areas because of what you do. Is that got to be one of the coolest things? Because I'm like, hey, stem cell. You're like, oh, I got a friend. There's not a subject I can't throw out that you don't have some experience in.
You know what has happened to me during the quarantine? This is very weird, but I have had so many people reach out to me, and I have become a ghostwriter for people responding to people online. Because I have done so much research in the area of all the health stuff that's going on right now, and just and social awareness, just so many different things because of the books that I've written, and I have such a wealth of knowledge that I've now become a ghostwriting responder for friends online. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but yeah, it's very helpful when for example, I'm writing a book right now called The Success Psyche. And a lot of the stuff that you and I talked about, I mean, he'll bring something up and I'm like, yep, Jam and I talked about that. Or, so it just, everybody's different, but at the same time, so much of what I write aligns. And so I feel fortunate that I'm able to bring to the table some contributions to my clients when they start talking about something. I'm like, you know what? I've got 4 sources to back up what you just said. Based on another book that I wrote. And so I think it's a real advantage for sure to have written so many books on such a wide array of topics.
It's so cool. I mean, guys, I cannot tell you enough. My favorite hour of the week, or sometimes much longer than that, was doing this because I could throw anything out and Jen be like, oh yeah, I got that. And it's just like, it's really unique. Let me ask you this, because obviously fear to freedom is the theme of this. I have to imagine, even though you've been successful running a sales. You literally started Tom Black Center for Sales in college. Like,
I
you had
did.
to fail somewhere, Jen. What and how do you deal with failure? That's my question. Have you ever failed? I assume you have. And how do
Mhm.
you deal with it?
Yeah, that's failure is a tough one for me. And whenever you and I talked about it, it's always a sore spot for me. So I was that kid in school growing up who, I mean, I never made anything but A's. I was that kid. I was salutatorian, full academic scholarship, all the things, right? So perfection was very important to me. Um, so then I sold books door to door, which I think you read that in my bio, and that was a lesson. That was a humbling experience, and I would say that that was my first real time of failure, because when you knock on doors for a living, there's no way that you can have pride, or there's also no way that you could possibly never fail. I had an old lady one time literally chuck my bag off of her porch and tell me she was going to call the police on me just because I had knocked on her door. So I mean, like, I don't know. Two things I guess that I do to get past failure is, one is I allow myself to be upset. I don't just say, well, it's okay, because I'm hard on myself, and I kind of allow that. I allow it to process. But then I also, whether it's a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, I just keep going, because there's no one else who's going to get it done but me. I'm not a very good delegator. So when I do fail, it's back. I don't know. It's back on me. But I just keep going. And I know that's not an answer that's helpful if somebody doesn't have that kind of fire inside them. But I think most of us can relate to that fire, because if we want something badly enough, it's in there. And so I would just encourage people, or I encourage my children to go ahead and be upset. I don't ever tell my kids to stop crying. I don't ever tell my kids to buck up. I hold them, or whatever they need to do. If they need to go to their room because something messed up, I'm like, that's fine. But like the other day, my 7-year-old fell off his scooter, and he told me he was never going to get back on it again. And within 30 seconds, he was back on it. Within 30 seconds, and I'm like, man, I have to be doing something right as a parent. But anyway, so I guess that's how I do it.
I mean, look, saying get back up and get going, 100%. The whole saying of it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you
Yeah.
get back up. And teaching your boys not to bottle it up, good job, Mom. Like, that's a good thing. That is the old school. We're creating some real challenge people down the line. I love
Yeah.
that you're doing that. Let me ask you, what really gets you inspired? Because obviously, to write some of these books, to do all the businesses that you do, I mean, you're busy. What keeps you inspired and keeps you going?
Well, I guess it's the expected answer, but it's definitely my family. I have a real charge in my heart to create 3 young men who are world changers. It's the reason why I felt called to homeschool, despite the fact that I work full time. So there's that. It's also the reason why I moved next door to my parents, because I knew that I would have to have their support with my children if I was going to have a career and also homeschool. But I feel there's two things that really drive me is, and somebody made me realize this even just a few months ago, because I always thought that and I know you're going to be like, what? I can't believe this, Jen. But I always felt like that I wasn't really making a difference. My clients were making a difference, but somebody kind of let me know, like, hey, you're able to help your clients help other people. So you are actually directly helping transform lives yourself. And I don't know, so transforming lives through my clients has been something that I've been more and more grateful for every day when I wake up. And then making sure that I shape 3 boys in this world who will be world changers, who will be leaders, who will go against the flow, who will defy the norm, and they're going to be guys to be watched. And I feel like that's a charge that's been on my heart since the first moment I knew I was pregnant.
Well, yes, you have affected, influence, and helped so many people. So yeah, I was about ready to book my flight to Nashville just to be like, no, Jen, we need to sit down. Um, you help so many people. But I want to talk about, because you mentioned homeschool, and obviously the
Mhm.
world has changed. There are a lot of people that are dealing, whether they wanted to homeschool or not. You have
Yeah.
to have some help and some suggestions to help some folks out, because we've been thrust into something that we didn't necessarily expect. And there's people
No.
that are working from home and trying to now homeschool, virtual school. Can you help give some pointers? Because I'm sure you got a bunch.
Yeah, I've had so many moms reach out to me during this time, understandably. In fact, here in Nashville next week, I started I organized a homeschool panel where we've got about 8 experienced homeschool moms that are going to be there for Q&A, and we have an audience of new first-timer homeschooler moms coming. Now, I will say that I will admit that I am a very lazy homeschool mom, and I say that because there's some homeschool parents who want to be super organized, and it's really important that they stay on schedule and they have to do all the work. Here's the thing, my oldest is going to be in 4th grade next year, and we've never had a single homeschool day that lasted longer than 2 hours, ever. Never a single time. If you do homeschool the right way, that's the thing about, and I think, I don't know, I know you talked to Matt Boudreau a few weeks back, and I think he and I are on the same page here for sure. That the way that school is done now with this all day thing, it's not the way that children learn the best. So my first thing that I always tell parents is, first of all, understand that when you school at home, it's you're not going to be doing, it shouldn't be all day. It just shouldn't be. So I would say the first thing to do is go online. There's tons of resources. But if you're truly considering homeschool and not just doing your public school or your private school at home, I would say go online and find a resource that you take a quiz and find out what your homeschool style is, because there's classical, there's Charlotte Mason, there's unschooling, and there's all these things in between. And so if you can figure out your style, that'll help you find a curriculum. And there's also all-in-one curriculums. There's things where you can pick and choose depending on the type of learner that your child is. So you might also want to do some quizzes that help you figure out what type of learner your child is. And then you can start to adapt and find the curriculum that's right for you.
Wow. I have to say, because again, I guess I went through the cookie cutter style, which was just, go to, elementary to middle school to high school and, on or whatever. But that's interesting because we do have different learners. We do have different styles of teaching. To have those resources at the tip of our fingers is amazing. And I did talk to Matt. Acton Schools, quick shout out to them. I think it's amazing what they're doing. All right. So to you, who has been one of the most influential people to you in business? And I think I know the answer, but I'm really curious to hear this one.
You think you know the answer, huh? I don't even know what I was going to say. Let's see, the most influential person in business. So I guess first and foremost, I got to shout out to my dad. He's my writing mentor. So working with him, every single time we do a new edition of our textbook, we almost stop talking to each other forever. Like, it's horrible. Because he is meticulous and precise, and he's he's like the king of the analyticals. And I just can't stand it. I can't stand the questioning. I can't stand any of it. But I tell you what, he has sharpened me like no one else could. He has refined my writing, my attention to detail, because I don't have that. I don't have attention to detail, and he has trained me almost relentlessly on that. And so I give him props for that. And then I've got one other guy, a mentor, who's a huge name in the ghostwriting world. His name is Ken Abraham. And I sent him a couple emails back in like 2001, 2002, when I was writing a book for Tom Black. And I just said, hey, could you take a look at this? And he was like, are you writing this? And I said, yes. And he took me under his wing, gave me my first start at he was just amazing for no reason other than he just thought I had some talent. And he's a world-renowned ghostwriter, and he kind of made my reputation in the industry. And I wouldn't be where I was without him. So I would say my dad, and then Ken Abraham.
Well, the reason I felt pretty confident is I've heard you talk about your dad and your parents. I mean, you obviously you live next to your parents, and that says a lot about your relationship with them. But it's, when you talk to somebody and it's not, again, the answer they have to give. You talk about your parents, and especially your dad, when it comes to writing, in a glowing fashion, even though he may drive you crazy. I love that about how important family is to you.
Yeah, I love it. And I know how you and Lisa are too, and how you guys drive each other crazy, but you're each other's best friends. And I don't know, by the way, Will and I still evoke blueberry regularly, just so you know. Just so you know, like I'm pretty sure I used it last night. So there you go.
Well, I have to say, during the COVID time, the blueberry has come out a lot more frequently. What she's talking about, everybody, real quick, is if you and your spouse are literally going to choke each other out because you don't agree on a subject, whatever that may be, and whatever's about to come out of your mouth is not going to be positive or could harm the relationship, our code word is blueberry. So I love that, Jen. Emotions are running high right now. People need to see other people.
Absolutely.
My favorite question to ask, and I'm so curious to hear this. What does freedom mean to you?
Ooh. Ah, well, I guess that's a tough question to answer, but I'll just speak from the heart. So, first and foremost, very proud to be an American, and freedom is the thing that I guess our soldiers go and fight for to protect, which is the fact that we can go anywhere we want, anywhere in this country, anytime we want. We can teach our children at home or at school. We can worship in a house of worship. We can worship at home. We can wear what we want. We get this right to choose our leaders, but I love that I'm free to worship Jesus, and I love that I'm free without reproach to teach those standards and those principles to my children. And so I'll always fight for that, no matter what.
I love the answer, and I love that it came from your heart because that's the way you talk. You are one of the most real people I've ever met. You don't hide anything, at least in my opinion that I've seen. You just and maybe it's our relationship, but I love that you're just so open about it.
Thanks, Jam. I feel the same way about you. I feel like we've been longtime friends, even though we've only known each other for, I guess, a year or two now.
Yeah, we were actually joking. So I can see her. You guys can't see her on video right now, but I've actually never done video conferencing. It's always just been on the phone.
I know, it's weird.
It is weird. Hey, you look good. I like the haircut. It looks nice.
Oh, thank you. You don't think I shaved too much of my hair off?
No, it's
All
it's
right,
good
good.
shade. Whoever did that did good.
Thank you.
Um, so first, you know how important books are to me, and we talked a lot about reading books and sharing of books, and so much of what Let's Go Win was all about is sharing other authors' ideas. I'm just curious, the most impactful, I'll give you three impactful books you have ever read that have shaped your life.
Am I allowed to pick the Bible as one?
Of course. It's
Okay.
your answer, not mine.
Bible is number one for sure. And then the second one is going to be Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. And then the third one, I guess because it was the thing that sort of pushed me into writing success books, would probably be Good to Great. I think a lot of it, I think it's just classic, and it helped shape my sales career, and it was what helped me push toward excellence. So two spiritual ones and one business one.
So it is interesting because you still, I mean, obviously you write, but you still have quite a bit in the sales world. You know, you guys continue with knuckle dragging sales. My goodness, I can't say it. So you say it for me. Tell me more
Knuckle
about.
Dragging Sales.
Thank you. Can you say it for me?
So that is something. Unfortunately, COVID has put that on a little bit of a hiatus. But my passion for the sales world it comes from a place of knowing, and you know this, is knowing the limitless possibilities that exist in a sales career, but also recognizing freely that it's the hardest job on the planet. So my hope and my goal, and the reason why we started Knuckle Dragging Sales, was to help take people out of that place of trying to learn closing techniques and here's the psychological blah blah blah. It's to try to get people to understand that if you have grit and if you have resilience and if you can just drag your knuckles to the next door, that you've got what it takes to be in sales. And if you have a combination of that determination as well as the ability to genuinely want to connect with people, not for what they can do for you, but as a mutual value add to each other, that's what we try to instill in people. And we take it a little bit further with coaching. And we get into the metrics of people's numbers, and we do look at it because it's still a numbers game for sure. But if you don't have the few pieces that we believe it takes to be successful in sales, it doesn't really matter if you watch your numbers or don't watch your numbers. If you don't have the determination, and if you're going to let rejection completely stop you in your tracks, sales might not be right for you. So we find people that have the foundations for success, and then we teach them to hone that.
That's so cool and so needed, because so many salespeople they struggle, and it's really not, like you said, it's relatively simplistic, and it's like, hey, care about the other person, bring value. I love it. I can't wait to check it out more. Let me ask, what is on the horizon for you? What's next for Jen Lill Brown? What do you have going that we should all be looking out for?
But I think I sound like a crazy person when I say all these different things, because now you're going to be like, what? But I have a diabetes program that I have created with a doctor in Florida, and I've created the this online program on Kartra, where we're going to have videos, and it's a 6 week diabetes reversal program, and I'm going all in on it, and I'm partnering with him, and we're going to try to get this thing nationwide and help heal a lot of people. I'm really passionate about holistic healing. And so that's where my heart has been going the past year. I'm writing a book right now called Wild and Well for a nurse practitioner here in Nashville named Danny Williamson. And she's the one putting my name on the cover. And it's transformative, because I think one thing that we've noticed, especially during COVID, and the thing that scares everyone, is a lot of the people that have unfortunately been passing away are people with multiple comorbidities, right? And so Danny's passion, and then my passion now, is helping people live healthier every day, so that when things happen, that our bodies, our internal environments, are better able to handle them. So that is my newest passion. I'm also I just spoke this morning with a sales practitioner and professor in Oklahoma, and she and I are going to partner together to write a sales management book that's practitioner based, and it's going to be not theoretical. It's something that we're going to market to the academic world to try to help instructors give students real practical takeaways that say, when you leave here, you're not just going to be able to answer questions on a test. You're going to be able to go and sell, or you're going to be able to go and get a job. Like, this is the stuff you need to know. So we're going to write like a sales management, a sales handbook that we're hoping will transform the way that academics teach sales.
Oh, it's so cool. And the diabetes thing, I mean, they're both very cool, but the diabetes thing is so needed right now. I love that you're doing that. I have to ask this just because, again, like you said, you might think I'm a crazy person. I kind of do, because you have so many balls in the air. You juggle
I'm too
so
many.
well. On top of that, I mean, you're the one girl at home with the 3 boys and your husband. It's like, how do you do it all? Do you have a formula? Because I need some more of what Jen's doing. I don't know how you do juggle all of that. It's pretty amazing.
Oh my gosh. I just think that God's given me a few talents that I have nothing to do with, which is just my ability to, I don't know, take on more than I can chew, because I actually wouldn't recommend that for most people. I think that whole, how does she do it thing, I don't think she should do this much, but I'm feeling called to do it. I will say that that I have a nanny. So let me go ahead and say that. We do have a full-time nanny. I have my parents who live next door. I have an incredibly loving and supportive husband who is behind me 100%. It's like you and Lisa, like, we're best friends. He's my guy. And I don't know how people do it without that. And when you have struggles in your marriage and your relationship, or if you're a single mom or a single dad and you're still able to do all the things, I can't compete with that, because I've got this huge support system. So I'd say it was my support system, and I'd say it's my relationship with Jesus are the two things that enable me to do what I do.
Oh, that's so cool. And I just, the way you said earlier in the interview, like, you choose things that fill your bucket. And obviously these things are important to you. Like, going all in on this diabetes thing, that's a major undertaking. Like, there's a lot of folks to be helped out there. So it's so cool.
Absolutely.
What should I have asked you that I didn't know enough to ask?
Oh, good question. Why do I know all the best ways to be healthy, but I'm still not eating right? How about that?
All right, Jen, why do you know all the best ways to eat healthy, but you still choose not to?
Because I love queso way too much. That's my short answer. I don't know. I don't know. I was just talking about that this morning with my nanny. I'm like, why do I have all this knowledge in my head about health and healing, but I'm straight up eating a chocolate bar for breakfast? Like, why is that? I have no idea, but it happens, and it happens. You know, I don't know. Life is life. I really am just trying to wake up every morning, and I don't even care if it sounds cheesy. I try to wake up so grateful. There's a mom who has been texting me in the morning, telling me that she's been going out and going for walks and just crying in the morning because she can't send her kids back to school, and she's afraid schools aren't going to be even happening at all. And I can't I can't infect her with joy, but I hurt for all of these people who are waking up every day in despair. And I don't, I just, if I start going down the despair tubes, I do something that I learned from a book that I wrote called The Gratitude Switch, where I start finding the things to be grateful for. It's by Kevin Clayson, by the way, awesome guy. I start finding the things to be grateful for in the crap. So like what he teaches in his book is if you're in a traffic jam and you haven't moved for 2 hours, he starts looking around right where he is in the mess. Because see, gratitude journals, you journal when you're happy. That's easy. Anybody can do that. If you can find gratitude in the mess, that's when change happens. So he says, man, I'm in this huge traffic jam. I'm not moving. I'm almost out of gas. I am so grateful I have a car. I'm so grateful that I'm headed home to a family who loves me. And he's filled with joy from that moment on. And I'm terrible at it, but I try every single day to be better.
Well, I'm going to check out his book just because you know how important gratitude is to me, guys. Every single day, 3 things you're grateful for. It doesn't matter. Like you said, if it's the best day in the world or the worst, there's always things to be grateful for. And there's so much science backing up what being grateful or having gratitude does for you.
Yep.
You know what, Jen? Eat your chocolate bar. You're doing great. You look good. You work out. You work hard. You have your chocolate bar.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I will. I will continue to. Don't worry.
I just think you're one of the most interesting, unique, and just fun people to be around. How could our listeners connect with you online?
Well, they can find me on my website is just www.jenlillbrown.com, which is just JenLillBrown.com. They can go to knuckledraggingsales.com and reach out to me or John, my business partner. Find me on LinkedIn. Just search for Jen Lill Brown. I mean, shoot me an email. My dad and I also have a website, sellingtheprofession.com. So there's, pretty soon I'm probably going to have like a diabetes website, maybe a homeschool website. Just throw me out some ideas. I'll create them all. But anyway, yeah, Jen Lill Brown. I've got a couple. You can find me on Amazon on the author page. So yeah, I would love to hear from anyone. And I mean, if anyone has any questions about how to start, writing their own book, or they want to look more into the ghostwriting process, I'm here for questions. I mean, just literally, I'm an open book. If you have a question, just ask me and I'll answer it.
Guys, truly one of the most approachable, friendly, honest is the other part. She's very honest, and she'll tell you like, no, this is a good idea. This is a terrible idea. If you really have an idea and you're like, gosh, I want to write a book, she's awesome. Do it. If you have it in you and you're looking for it, like Jen says, everybody's got a book inside them. You just got to seek it out. I cannot thank you enough for everything you've done for me and my family, for being here today. You are awesome. I so appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jan. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it. I have a confession. This is my very first podcast. So I was honestly a little bit nervous, even though it was you, because I'm kind of a recluse a little bit. So putting myself out there isn't always the easiest thing for me to do. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, the world wins when you do. So keep doing it more and more. Sure appreciate it. And you guys tune in next time as well. In the meantime, continue to transcend in life. Have a great one.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to transcendinlifepodcast.com for information on my coaching courses And make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Transcend in Life podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson, taking you from fear to freedom.